He is the Pope.
He's the Pope.
He can say or do, maybe not do, he can say anything and it will be Catholic law.
I know.
And he chose violence.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of What Are We Talking About There? It took 5 takes maybe to do it, but I finally got it. This is a show, basically, where I am the host, or someone is the host. They are God. They pick the discussion topic. And then our two guests over here, Jenny. Say hi, Jenny.
Hello.
And Antonio.
Me?
We all discuss said topic. And again, the host is God, essentially. The host gets to pick what the topic is, how much we stay on topic, and stuff like that. The key is that the guests they have no idea what the topic is going to be until we start recording. Now, the host gets to award points throughout the show because the points don't matter, just like Whose Line Is It Anyways? And then whoever has the most points at the end wins and gets to host the next episode. Because this is episode 1 and I own AN Productions, I am thus the first host. So I thought for our first topic, I wanted to ease us into this. I wanted to really ease us into this. I wanted it to be a topic that we can all talk about, something that we all understand. Let's talk about God.
So you.
I wouldn't call myself a god.
Well, you said the host is God and you are the host, so you are
myself, God. As a host, I'm God.
Okay.
But as a human being, I would call myself a deity, but I wouldn't call myself a god.
Wait, I have a question that's kind of off topic, but kind of on topic. And then we can get to your topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, people are like, when you join I thought a cult could be any, person with just a really big following.
A really big following, because Markiplier's following is certainly a cult.
Okay. Would a deity have a cult, or would that be religion? Or same difference?
I start thinking that they're the same difference.
Okay. Yeah, because one time I told someone that I think religion is a cult.
It totally is.
But then someone said it's not, because a cult has to be a real person.
I don't think
that's the debate.
I don't think that's true, though, because aren't there cults that actually follow a quote-unquote god?
Well, what about that? Do you guys know about that Japanese death religion that happened with the biochem?
Yes.
No.
That happened in the 90s? Yeah, there was this dude who...
That's the dude with, the really long hair and the beard, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And he got a bunch of his followers to make chemical weapons, and he made them explode in a subway. And it caused mass panic in Tokyo, which makes New York City look like a town. It's huge. And the key was it didn't explode. It wasn't like a bomb. It was just like a seal that they broke on something. Like anybody could have done it. And yeah, it was like a huge deal in Japan. It was basically Japan's 9/11. I'm not kidding.
Oh, wow.
It was like a
Jesus
huge
Christ.
deal. But this happened, I believe, in the 90s. But anyways, let's talk about God.
Okay.
And at first, I really want you two, in all earnesty, to say, what do you think God is? Do you think there is a God? Do you think that God is me? Do you think that...
Well, I have an answer in case my parents are watching, and then I have a real answer.
All right.
I went to Catholic school. I went to a private Catholic school from nursery school to 5th grade, and religion is just not my thing.
I'd imagine going to a Catholic school would really shape that. Because
honestly,
it's like being forced down your throat.
Yeah, it's being forced to do it, and then when you're forced to do it, it makes it a less appealing. And I've never found solace in it and if people do, that's great for them. I haven't. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there is a God, whether it's from whatever religion. I think there's more than one God. I think there truly is more than one person is right. I don't know.
She's a polytheist, everybody.
If you believe in the Catholic God, then that's great. And I'm sure he's there for you. It's more just the spiritual of you wanting to believe in something.
So you're more about the spirituality side of it more than necessarily, hey, there's this guy with a really long beard upstairs who's kind of
Yeah.
like Flash Gordon
Yeah.
flying around.
It's more the spirituality side. Like, if you feel the need to pray to God to help you through a tough time, then do it. You know? And if he answers your prayers, then good for you. That's great. I personally don't, but if you do, good for you. Like, everyone, like, all the hate between religions, it's just like, bro, chill.
Yeah,
just
it really
do
is
your
crazy.
thing.
It really is crazy.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane, do your thing.
I mean, I'm personally very happy that I live in the United States. As crazy as it is here, it's not as bad as
Oh,
a significant chunk of the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's nowhere near that bad. I look at India and Pakistan, for example. Like, they are just like one insult away from pushing the buttons and nuking each other. Like,
Yes.
they just hate it so
It's
bad. It's so bad.
so bad.
But anyways, Antonio, what are your thoughts? I kind of knew Jenny's because, you know, one, we worked together, and so we were constantly talking about stuff like this. But with you, I'm genuinely curious.
Okay, so
1,000 points to Jenny, by the way.
Oh,
1,000
my thank
Oh,
you.
my Lord.
Thank you.
I also went to a Catholic school, but not in the way of that it was my normal school. It was like I went to public school, and then after that, I would go to a school for religion.
I did that once I switched to public school 6th grade on.
So I did that from, I want to say, like 1st grade to maybe like 6th grade. I never made confirmation because I didn't finish the curriculum, because there was a curriculum. It was actually required for me to go to mass and then write about what the pastor talked about at that mass. But other than that, I went there and, you know, we were told stories about the Bible and stuff like that. You know, Noah, Moses, all the, you know, the greatest hits.
It's true.
Yeah.
The
very
greatest
true.
hits
Yeah.
compilation. Jesus, obviously, like, he's got to be in there somewhere.
The big man, yeah.
Yeah, the big man
No,
himself.
the big man's God, little man's Jesus.
Yeah, big man.
You can
Junior.
almost say that God's a fat man and
and Jesus is the little boy.
boy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a good experience there. Like, it wasn't awful. Like, it's not like the teachers were mean or anything. It was more of just the people that ran that particular church just wasn't doing it. For one thing, they called everyone in my class bad Christians because we didn't go to mass every Sunday. And it's like, all right, no. Because I believe that anyone can be a good Christian as long as you faithfully believe. Now,
Yes.
here's what my personal thought is on God himself. I don't think a single religion has him right. And I will say that to a T.
Interesting.
Because I believe that it's a combination of almost all of them. But it's also none of them, because none of them believe in one thing. It's that God created the universe the way it is. Science is God's method of keeping the universe self-sufficient. So,
Interesting.
you know how a lot of Christians denounce evolution? Right.
Yeah, they
It's like a
denounce
common-
they denounce basic fact, yes.
They denounce evolution, say shit like, oh, how come if we come from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? Because people don't know what evolution actually is.
Exactly.
They think it's like fucking Pokemon. But even then, there are Venusaurs and Bulbasaurs. Let's be
Yeah.
real. I don't understand, why can it be that that's how God made life work?
There is a sect of Christianity that believes exactly what you're saying.
I do not know of them.
I can't remember the name, but essentially what they believe in is that God created the universe, and this is on Joe Rogan. I heard this on Joe Rogan. God created the universe, and basically he took a step back and left us to our own devices, essentially.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that's called. No idea what's that called. But for the most part, I would have to agree with you. But I don't even think. I'm also quite an objectivist. If you read anything about Ayn Rand, I'm not completely an objectivist. I'm not a nut. Well, I am a nut, but
As
not-
much of a nut as Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand was insane.
Yeah.
Love her books, though. I love her books.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Her book Atlas Shrugged, which is my Bible. That is literally my Bible. I will read that book. I read that book once a year. I'm almost done rereading the book. There's the idea that reality exists separate from our consciousness. That meaning this couch, when I leave, will be here still. It's going to remain in this space. There's a tree that's just outside, or a bush that always likes to whack me in the face every time I try to get into this house. That bush is going to be there regardless of if I'm there or not. To me, would God really be something we could understand?
No, I think any being with that much power, we feeble humans would not be able to comprehend.
Here's the scarier question, and this kind of goes into cosmic horror a little bit. Do we want to know what it is? Does it care about us? If it hates us, that's one thing. If it loves us, that's one thing. If it feels nothing about us, that's horrifying.
That's deep.
The worst thing you can say to somebody is, I don't think of you.
That's that whole second death thing.
That cuts deep.
Yeah.
That you die physically, and then you die again when someone stops thinking of you for the last, or when someone speaks your name the last time.
That was the whole premise of the movie Coco from Pixar. Remember we saw Coco?
Yeah.
Was that really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the second death is when the memory stops, or the living people stop talking about you and sharing your memories. And that's Hector, the grandfather, was going to experience second death and, like, I guess, die again because Coco, the grandma, was also dying, and she was the last person to be talking about him and sharing his memories.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The only thing that I can remember from that movie is when the guy gets crushed by the giant bell.
We were the only 4 in the theater. You, me, and 2 other people, 2 friends. We were the only 4 in there at a 10:30 p.m. showing on a Wednesday night for a kids movie. And Adam just burst out hysterical laughing when this guy gets crushed by the bell.
That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in the movie
first
theater.
5 minutes of the opening movie.
I'm like, this is wonderful. All right, so Antonio, since you brought that up, I'm also going to award you 1,000 points.
Oh, now we're tied.
So you both tied, so you guys got to do something. But one of the things
something.
you got to do
talk
something.
on a podcast.
One of the reasons why I wanted to bring up what do you think God is, or the subject of God in general, is because something very interesting has just happened within the Catholic Church.
I love this. Well, okay.
This subject scares me, personally.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is.
No. Why does it scare you?
It scares me because something crazy happening in the Catholic Church could mean something very awful.
Oh, first off, the Catholics know that aliens exist. They're called the Gilgamechs. And the reason why they have sex with boys, the Gilgamechs have sex with boys, little boys in particular, is because the Gilgamech vagina has teeth in it, and it really hurts. But a little boy's mouth or a little boy's ass.
You're the little boy.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Anyways, that was South Park I was referencing there.
I thought you were for real for a well, not like for real, but like that you were just going off.
Going off.
I thought you were like I was like, oh no.
More like getting off.
Is Adam having one of his textbook mental breakdowns?
But anyway, something very interesting has happened within the Catholic Church as of recently.
I want to preface it by I said I love this. I love the bless you. I love the chaos of it, but I also feel very, very badly for those that are like scared for their religion who like actually.
I don't.
Well, no, for people that count on their religions and it's part of who they are, and now they have to question it. I feel bad for them.
Before you go any further. My grandfather said something very profound to me, and I will remember this until the day I fucking die. He believed in God. He kept the Bible by his bed. He would always say, "I'm going to pray for you," and stuff like that. Despite some of the heinous shit that he would say, I would consider him, to me, what a textbook Christian should be. Ideally, like an ideal Christian. But I've never seen him once, except maybe on a Christmas every once in a while, go to church. Ever. On a Sunday, whenever. He would never go to church. And I asked him about it. He said to me, Adam, I believe a guy who is fishing thinking about God is closer to God than a man in a house of God thinking about fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that hit me hard.
Huh.
That hit me like a fucking ton of bricks. And I take that to heart. I do take that to heart. But that kind of... Why I want to say that is that kind of is why I don't really feel much sympathy for people who are having such a crisis of faith over this entire thing. Because I'm like, well, if you still believe in the teachings, you still want to follow the teachings as best as you can, you still think about God, you're still praying to God, you're still thankful for what you have and thank him, quote unquote, for the stuff that you have. That makes you just as much of a Catholic as anything else, or whatever sect that you particularly believe in. But anyways, Jenny, if you want to continue with the chaos that has ensued.
Okay. So basically, you want me to tell the story?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. So it's a priest, and I've forgotten what state, but a priest basically came forward, and in baptisms, when the kids are young and they baptize them, the priest said, "I've been saying we baptize you." Apparently, the correct terminology is "I baptize you." The priest himself needs to say "I" because I am speaking on the behalf of God to baptize you. We means the community, and that doesn't baptize you. God does. So a priest has come out and said, well, I've been saying we. The Vatican came out and said, well, that's not good. All of your baptisms are now canceled.
For real?
For real.
Yeah.
And
that's insane.
A lot of other priests have come out in solidarity with him and said, well, I've been saying we. And the Vatican's like, well, I guess a lot of baptisms are
the correct term is get fucked.
What if the priest who baptized that priest was not baptized correctly? Because if he was never baptized correctly,
then he can't be ordained.
Then he's not a Catholic priest.
He can't be ordained.
So, yeah, how many steps can you go? How many baptisms are now null and void?
Now, I'm not a priest. By any means.
No.
I never would have guessed.
I'm
I know, surprising. Would God really care about a word?
That's
according to the Vatican.
According to the Vatican,
But
yes.
that, to me, I'm not a priest. I'm not a bishop. I'm not the Pope. But
I should be the Pope.
If one word is enough to invalidate your entire Christianity,
Yeah.
I would really have to argue to ask, is that a God you really want to be following? And that
Yeah.
is not the God that I believe exists.
Well, the crazy thing, too, is that the Pope could easily go, oh, you didn't do it right. I baptize you.
That too.
Yeah.
Couldn't he just do that?
He could literally just...
Couldn't he
guess
just
so.
say to anybody who said we, I'm going to say you've done it right. Or not necessarily done it right. You can say he could make like an executive decision and go, you are now baptized.
That's
or could say, nope, that counted.
I mean, can't you
Or
just
at least
make
be-
it go I and or we? Make the words interchangeable, but according to the Vatican.
Or, like you said, why not just have it be like, okay, that's not right, but the idea and intent was there, so therefore it is valid, but not henceforth.
You could do that. There's multiple solutions
He
to
is
this
the
problem.
He is-
Grandfather them in.
He is the Pope.
He's the Pope.
He can say or do, maybe not do, he can say anything and it will be Catholic law.
I know.
And he chose violence.
Well, I can name about 20 popes that chose violence over.
He chose chaos.
He chose. Well, I think that's the key. That's the key to this. The Pope said,
Chose chaos.
"I'm gonna let the chaos reign
This
for
is
a little bit."
this is the type of shit that's going to create a new age Protestant religion.
Oh,
of
I'm terrified.
weirs.
If there's anything that I'm scared of more than old, outdated Christian beliefs, it's this new age bullshit.
This is the kind of shit that creates like the West Marlboro Baptist Church.
Oh my god. Well, no, I would say they're a reaction to the liberalization, and I use that term as meaning modernization and all that. So the liberalization of many churches they are a reactionary result of that, and they should all die. But
I mean,
they are
they're
terrible,
They're
terrible
awful.
human beings.
I feel bad for any child who is indoctrinated into that.
That's another part of this whole conversation. First off, 1,000 points to Antonio because of bringing up the fact that he's the mofo pope.
Well, so I highly suggest that if anyone out there has been baptized Catholically, that you see if you have a videotape of your baptism and see what your priest says.
Because weren't your parents freaking out about this, or your mother?
They weren't freaking out. I asked my mom if she has my baptism on tape, and she goes, why? And then my dad goes, what, you want to check if you're baptized? And I said, yeah. And she goes, you're baptized. I'm like, well, we got to know for sure. And she goes, I have a paper that says you're baptized. You're baptized.
But that paper would be invalidated
Exactly.
if the priest said we.
But then she walked away from me, so I guess the conversation was
Mother's
over.
final, I guess. Well, reality exists separate from our consciousness. So if the person said we, it's invalid. It doesn't matter if there's a paper there or not.
Oh my God,
Jenny,
you have Schrodinger's baptism.
What?
Schrodinger's cat. She is right now, as of this moment, until she watches her baptism video, she is simultaneously baptized and not baptized, and we will not know until she watches the video.
Oh my God.
isn't that worse
I can't
than
say,
going,
oh my God. I don't have a God, apparently.
Oh my God is right.
No, it's your God.
Yeah.
Whatever God
Well,
you may choose.
hold on. Why would God care if a priest poured some water over your head and said, congratulations? Isn't it supposed to be like a washing of the sins?
Washing away of original sin. As a Catholic, I was about to say we. They believe. Catholics believe.
They, them.
Catholics believe
Caesar.
that you are born with original sin because Adam and Eve fucked when God told them not to.
No.
Oh, no, not because they fucked.
They
The
were
apple.
supposed to fuck.
They were supposed to fuck. No, the apple.
Fucking the woman, of course.
The
said,
rib.
You know what? I'm going to eat this apple that I'm not supposed to eat.
Yes.
And then that started a whole chain of reaction, and now we
Yes.
are the way we are because that gave them free will.
It gave them
Yes.
free will, yes.
Now,
And so
Here's-
we are born with their original sin. So baptism is
Which is-
erasing that.
bullshit.
I didn't do shit.
Here's the issue I have with that entire concept. New Testament, I like a lot more. I also just think it's much first off, I've only read the King James Bible because I think that's the prettiest sounding of the bunch of them. My issue is I'm a big advocate for we have free will, for that you make of your life what you make of it, and no one else can really dictate what that is. Or if you let other people dictate what that is your choice. Now, I hate this idea that God said you are perfect with no knowledge. That no free will. You were perfect. And now because we dared eat something to gain knowledge to better ourselves, he's damned us. Or he cast them out of Eden, the Garden of
Yes.
Eden. Because we chose, in essence, we granted, I guess, the devil or a snake of some kind,
Yes.
who was the devil,
The serpent.
lured Eve to eat the apple. But the fact that knowledge is why they were cast out.
It's interesting because, like, what was God's goal then?
500 points. 500
Why,
points
thank
to you for your knowledge of.
Oh, thank you.
of
I guess
Catholic.
Catholic school did me some good.
Yeah. Which I still feel so terrible. We had none of that where I grew up.
Yeah.
I went to a public school like everyone should. And I went to a very public school. We didn't really have, we had a Catholic church, but I was baptized Episcopalian, which is the Church of England, which is basically the Catholic Church, except more accepting of gay people. And then I became a Methodist. And if I had to pick one, I would still say I'm a Methodist, because something that I love about Methodists more than a lot of the other sects, like this whole predestination bullshit, I do not believe in whatsoever. Methodists believe in redemption. They believe that you can get your way. If you do something bad, you can redeem yourself. Or it's not preordained that you're going to go to heaven or hell. Because the idea of something being preordained is that if God knows all, God knows that you're going to either go to heaven or hell. It's already preordained. Everything that you do has already been set in stone. You know, you can't change it, which I hate that idea. In fact, that idea creeps me the fuck out. But no, we didn't have any of this. Like, the amount of people I know on Long Island who went to a Catholic school and hate it because it was forced down their throat. And the amount of total repression that I've seen from these schools.
Not only did I go to the
terrifying.
private Catholic school, I went to the private Catholic school in Queens. So I was in New York City for that
So
bullshit.
oh no.
So it was, the rich, snobby kids who
That's just terrible.
thought they were better than everyone else.
That's just fucking terrible.
We had to do mass every Wednesday. I had religion class in school, and I had to wear the uniform every day. Except on gym days, we got to wear like a t-shirt, but still a uniform t-shirt and shorts. But otherwise, I was in like the pleated plaid skirt jumper thing.
Now, I have no problem with school uniforms. I don't. Do I like them? No. But if the school says, hey, especially a private school, we're going to wear uniforms, you're going to wear a uniform. But it's just the repression of it. Because to me, when you're a kid, that's when you're supposed to explore and question everything. Question everything, learn from it, fuck up, learn from your mistakes. That's, to me, what makes you a good man growing up is, learning from the mistakes, playing as a kid, learning stuff as a kid. But to me, Catholic school, from all the horror stories I've heard from literally everyone I've talked to who's gone to these private Catholic schools, it's total repression. Be it sexuality, be it sex itself. Sex itself, in particular, is like such a taboo that it disturbs me. It really does disturb me because sex has been creepy, it has been turned into something you're not supposed to do. It sort of defeats the purpose of sex, and which is another big conversation that we could have on this show later. But I really didn't realize it was this big of an issue until I came here.
Yeah.
Like, this just wasn't shit that really mattered where I grew up.
And it's gotten quote unquote better because I had a sister as my principal. I didn't have a principal. I had sister Anne. And then, but like my dad will tell me stories of when he went to Catholic school and he'd be like, the nuns took a ruler to my butt every other day.
Yeah. Well, I know.
They straight up like the like funny movie like stories from the movies that you only see in the movies of like the nuns slapping them with rulers on their butts.
True.
That was true.
Now you know what's even crazier to me is he had that bad experience and sent you to the same kind of school.
They didn't like the public school option.
Got it.
In Queens.
Oh, in Queens, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, I can understand that full-heartedly.
They did not like it.
Were you always in a private Catholic school?
Yep, nursery school to fifth grade.
To fifth grade? What about after that?
Then I went to the public school.
I
did the after hours Catholic school. So every Tuesday night, I would go to the church in town. We would sit through a mass, and then we would go over. There was like a school next door, and we'd go over there for another hour. And usually it was like seniors in high school that were doing volunteer community service hours for the church would come over and teach us youngins about why God is so good and all that, and helped us get ready for confirmation.
I have a story.
Okay.
Because I did go to Sunday school for a bit. And personally, I didn't care because a lot of my friends were there. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really give a shit. I was kind of like, I'm happy to be with my friends and blah, blah, blah. We'd play games and I didn't really care. Until one day, I said something that was innocent. It was really an innocent question or a statement. It's so, like, I'm talking like I am like 6, 7 years old. Well, apparently I made the mistake of watching Jason and the Argonauts there. And in that film, they call God Zeus because it was Greek.
Yes.
And so I made the mistake, and somebody asked, like, what's God's name? And I said, Zeus.
Oh,
no.
I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die the way how all of the adults in there, and I remember one in particular, which I will not say her name, she freaked out. Like, why would you say that? And I'm like, because that's what they called him in this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Ever since then, first off, that was one of the last days I was there because I told my parents about that. And my parents were like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Like, what you do is you say, no, that's, you explain it. You're like, no, that's a Greek god. That's something else. That's something else entirely. No. Our God doesn't. I don't even know if God really does have a name because nobody even bothered to answer my question other than make me feel like
I've heard like
total shit.
3 names for God.
Name them.
All right, if it's too offensive, then you bleep it out. Jehovah, Yahweh, and Allah.
Allah's a different god, though.
Some may argue
They are the same as the Old Testament, because the Old Testament's the one area
Yeah.
where Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all align.
Yes.
Yes.
It's after that
Yeah.
that things.
I
get
think the
tricky.
Christian one is Jehovah, and the Jewish one is Yahweh.
See, I thought the Jewish one was Jehovah.
Jehovah sounds.
Because
Jewish.
there's an entire joke about it in Monty Python's Life of Brian,
I
where
could
they
be
keep
wrong.
saying, "I just kept saying this food is good enough for Jehovah," and he keeps getting stoned because you're not supposed to say Jehovah. And then all of a sudden, the Romans are like, "What's going on here?" And then one of the people who's stoning him goes, "He said Jehovah," and then all of a sudden they start stoning him. Like, that's fucking funny.
I've honestly never heard of names for God. Like everyone was like, no, God.
It's
like,
God. Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I
God.
think too. I have heard of
Yeah.
Jehovah. What the fuck is Yahweh? Is that the Bigfoot that's in Australia?
Yeah, it's like
Isn't that like when two male manga characters like love each other?
no, oh my god. Close.
First off, 1,000 points. 1,000 points because you could name them off. The
I've
top
done
of your
it.
head.
My Catholic school liked to teach lessons.
Sure.
And one of those lessons one day was, if you see something bad happening, do something. Don't just pretend
Don't be a
it's not
bystander.
happening. Yeah, don't be a bystander. The way they wanted to show us this was to show us the final episode of Seinfeld. I watched Seinfeld at Sunday school.
Sounds like a victory to me.
I was,
First off, Seinfeld's Jewish.
yes.
They're all Jewish.
I just got to watch VeggieTales.
I also watched
too.
VeggieTales. You cannot punish childhood innocence.
No, you can't. To me, you can't really punish anyone really who genuinely wants to know what something means. What does this mean?
Yeah.
And looks to learn what it means. Like actually learn what it means. And it kept being punished.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what leads to stupidity. That's what leads to compliance. That, you know, not to question things.
I remember Jess, my girlfriend, told me a story of she went to Lutheran school for preschool, I think, or like kindergarten. And they said to the children, the 5-year-old children, that anyone who does not go to this school will go to hell.
That's
And
evil.
they made all of those kids cry because
Yeah.
they're like, my brothers don't go here, my parents don't go here.
Yeah.
They're all going to hell.
That's awful.
That's
Needless
that's
to say, the
evil to
next
me.
year, Jess went to public school.
Yep.
That, to me, that is one of the most evil things somebody could do.
Legit. Like,
That
how,
is
awful.
That's worse than just bad. That's,
how do
that's
you
evil.
how do you say something like that in good conscience?
Yeah.
I felt bad when when people at my Catholic school said that people who don't go to mass every Sunday is a bad Christian. I couldn't imagine what anyone's reaction would have been if they say, if you don't go to Sunday mass every Sunday, you go to hell. I could not
That's
imagine.
awful.
Well, I also have a fundamental distaste for anything that makes you act a certain way out of fear.
Yes.
That's every religion in a nutshell. Maybe except Buddhism, which I'm also not a fan of. The fact that they say you have to act this way or you're damned forever and believe in this certain subset of things, even if they're scientifically wrong, if you don't believe in this, you're going to hell and you're going to fry for eternity. I have a fundamental problem with that. I don't even know if I believe in heaven or hell. I don't even know if, and I want to know what you guys' take is on this. When we die, where do we go? Is there really a heaven or a hell? And by what standards are you judged to go to one or the other? And that's what, it doesn't anger me. It both fascinates me and drives me crazy at the same time.
Where I got this answer from, and this answer brings me comfort. I got this answer from a YouTube short film of all places called Treats for Beasts. I highly recommend it for those who haven't watched it. It's weird. It's fucking weird. but it's very profound and it's worth watching. It's about, I think, 40 minutes long. It stars a man who constantly has his chest hair out and his son, the fleshlight, that looks like a human mouth. It's amazing. The view, because at one point, the fleshlight asks, Daddy, where do we go when we die? Or like, what happens when we die? And the answer he gives is this: I can't tell you if there is a heaven or hell. There probably isn't. But if you want to think of it in a more scientific sense, when we are born, right before our brain starts working and starts being conscious, there's a spark of energy. No scientist can tell you where that spark of energy comes from that sparks consciousness. But it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But that through the laws of the universe, energy cannot be created or destroyed. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
That's how matter works. That spark has to come from somewhere. That spark could be you. That is your consciousness, flicking into being. Now, when you die, that energy can't disappear.
Exactly.
It has to go somewhere, whether it's a tree, whether it's the grass, whether it's the electricity in your iPhone. It has to go somewhere. So maybe if that energy bounces around a few more times, maybe it'll land back in a human again. And maybe that's just what reincarnation is. Not like you'll remember. Maybe you won't even be conscious for it. But maybe that's what happens.
So I'm going to ask, as beautiful as that is, and I agree with a lot of that, or at least that's been my take
Yeah.
as a 25, almost 26-year-old nobody, it sounds to me like that's advocating reincarnation,
It does a bit.
which I don't believe in at all.
I don't believe in reincarnation in the way that you have past lives within you. That sounds weird. I also feel like it's very rare for something like that to happen.
Because I full-heartedly believe, because it's scientific, that the energy when you die that you have within you has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Where does it go? And you see, that's always where I found the interesting part of the afterlife, is like, where does it go? Now, not that I believe this, but a lot of people say that's where ghosts come from.
Yeah.
That it's that energy, that when you die,
Yes.
it's that energy escaping. Which, if that's the case, why aren't there ghosts all over the place? And but whatever. But that's a very. I'm giving you another 1,000 points.
I think it's 4,000 points for
I think
me
that's
currently.
4,000 points. I think that we're currently at. Well, Jenny has, I think, 2,000.
Yeah.
So,
I think so.
What a slacker.
my.
no.
I'm sorry, I have a
no.
lot of profound things to say.
Yeah, a lot of profound things to say, which we got to incorporate into take 3. We got to turn into pretentious fucks.
Of course. That's
Now,
why it's needlessly
I got to tell you,
complicated.
speaking of short films, I want to tell you about a short film that I found. It's my favorite short film of all time, and it's called Adam and Dog. It's the story of Adam and Eve, told from the point of view of a dog. But he happens to come across Adam. Adam and the dog form a bond. They become man's best friend. That whole thing is it's supposedly the origins of man's best friend. And anyway, so Adam starts hanging out with the dog starts hanging out. They start feeling safe around each other. And of course, Eve comes into the picture, and all's right with the world. But suddenly, it gets rainy out. Suddenly, it's horrible. Something horrible has happened. The dog is almost scared of Adam because of what has happened. And you find out that it's after they've eaten the apple. And the dog runs away, but all of a sudden the dog is all alone. And suddenly you realize the dog could stay. The dog is basically faced with the choice. Do I stay in the Garden of Eden, or do I go with my friends? And I cry every time I watch this, because the dog chooses his friends. Because when you see Adam and Eve cast out into the desert,
Mm-hmm.
and you see them walking away, it's beautiful. It was my cover photo on Facebook for a long time. The dog hesitates and then runs out. And runs right beside Adam and Eve and sits. And both Adam and Eve look down at it, and Eve bends down and starts petting the dog, and you see the shadow of the tail, because it's all in silhouette. You see the tail start wagging, and then they just keep walking.
That's crazy.
And I thought that was the best short film I've ever seen.
Interesting.
I love it because I love the idea that this dog had everything in the Garden of Eden, really. Chose to go with his friends.
Yeah.
Despite all the hardships that are out there.
Yeah.
Chose the unknown. Chose to be with his friends rather than be in this Garden of Eden. And that hit me hard, like a ton of bricks. Like, there's more than just a cute story about a dog here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I really liked about that story. I highly recommend it. I think it's literally called Adam and Dog. Well, Jenny, you haven't talked for a while, and I've been talking way too much. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, going back to the thoughts on Afterlife, one, I don't know if this is what I exactly believe, but I think it's one of the most interesting takes I've seen on it. It's a book I had to read in 10th grade English class called Elsewhere. I don't know if you guys have read it.
No.
But it's basically, in the first chapter, this girl is riding her bike and gets hit by a taxi and dies. And you're like, oh, great story.
Start of every anime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally the
So
start of every anime.
She wakes up.
Start
And
of Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. Anyways.
She wakes up on like a boat heading down a river, and she arrives at a place called Elsewhere, and she finds out that she's dead. And it's basically like a society, and it's just in the afterlife. And so she gets a job eventually. She meets her grandmother, lives with her grandmother. For the first first half or good chunk of the book, she can't accept the fact that she's dead because she's like a high schooler. She's like, no, I had my whole life ahead of me. So she goes to these like wells, and she can like peer down. Well, she has to spend money to peer down and like peer into the living world. And she's like trying to keep up with her schoolwork and trying to like keep up with the gossip from her friends. And finally the grandma pulls her aside and is like, you're spending all of my money. Move on. You're dead. Make a life here in the afterlife. And basically you age backwards. So she's, what is she, like 17 when she dies? She has 17 years to live in what is it?
Elsewhere?
Is it called Elsewhere? Yeah, Elsewhere. She has 17 years to live in Elsewhere as she's aging backwards slowly. And once you hit newborn baby, they send you back down the river to be reincarnated.
That's interesting.
And she gets a job as...
Interesting they chose a river. That's a biblical reference.
I specifically remember that her job that she gets in Elsewhere is she had like a connection to animals or something in her living world. Like she wanted to be a vet. So she is the person that when a dog dies, she's the person that greets the dog and explains to them, you're dead, welcome to Elsewhere. And for some reason, she has the ability to literally talk to animals because it's what was like her niche in the living world.
That sounds fascinating.
I don't remember the rest of the book, and I remember she meets like a guy and it turns into that whole thing, but
Of course.
Yeah.
It's a YA novel.
Exactly. But it was a real, like, I didn't read a lot of the books in English class, let's be real. That was one that I
did.
I also did.
I was way ahead of like the reading, like you had to be this chapter. I was way ahead. I finished the book early. I was so into this book and I was like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with every aspect of it, but it's so interesting to see like a society take on the afterlife.
See, I had that feeling. There were two books I remember reading in high school and I guess middle school too, where I remember I loved it so much I just kept reading ahead. Mm-hmm. One was Lord of the Flies.
Same.
I adored that book. I still do. It's one of my favorite books
so
of all
good.
time. The other was The Giver.
I don't know that one.
You don't know The Giver?
No.
Oh! Oh, fucking! I'm not joking. It's a short book. It's not very thick. Read the fuck out of it. Okay. So good. Also dismantles the idea of communism, which I love because fuck communism. That's the thumbnail with God written behind it. No, that sounds like a really fascinating book, though.
I also like the idea that the younger you die, the quicker you get reincarnated.
Yeah, because like her
isn't that like an incentive to kill yourself early then?
Yeah, I'll try. I could try again in another 25 years.
Like an old lady's like, what the fuck did I suffer this for?
But I remember
this is bullshit.
I remember she had like a 1-year-old birthday party and her grandma threw it for her. Like her grandma like outlived her in Elsewhere because the grandma had 75 years on her, so she's still aging backwards. and the girl's already back down to 1 year old.
That's weird.
And it ends with her being sent off to be
I
reincarnated.
love this idea, though. I love the idea of that book.
Yeah.
I have to find like the Wikipedia article and reread that.
I stopped reading once high school stopped.
It's unnecessary.
That's not true. I'm still spending all of my life reading House of Leaves.
Yeah, we were actually watching an episode of Fat Man Little Boy that hasn't aired yet.
Uh-huh.
And Jenny was laughing because at one point I'm reading House of Leaves.
Yeah.
And then I do this.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Why?" She starts laughing at that. I'm like, "If you knew
No,
what book
if
that
you
was, it
read
would
that
make
book,
total sense."
Okay.
That's what you have to do.
Okay. Interesting.
It's the premise of that book, or the premise of the author did when he was writing it, is that this cannot be made into an audiobook or any other form of media other than a book.
Okay.
It can only be a book, a
Okay.
physical book. You can't even do a PDF. It has to be a physical book.
Okay.
That's the entire concept behind what it was. The story of the House of Leaves itself is basically a man finds out that the inside of his house is a quarter of an inch larger than it is on the outside. The inside is a quarter of an inch larger than it is on the outside.
What is this, Doctor Who?
And then all of a sudden,
It
really hits
spirals
the fan. It
into
spirals.
And the most interesting thing about House of Leaves is that the framed narrative of it is like the core story of the house is like here.
Oh, 1,000 points, by the way, for bringing
thank
up
you.
that book.
Thank you.
Like the core narrative is like here. And then you have the guy that's actually telling you the story. I forget his name. Some with an H. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. It's the core story. Then it's Zampano writing about that story. And then I'm just going to call him Husk. It's probably not his name.
No.
But it's something along those lines. Telling you his take on Zampano's take of the story.
One of
the
those.
story.
Okay.
And then, not only that, because this is also implied within the book, outside of Husk, I don't know his name, is the editor of the book,
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
House of Leaves. So you have the editor, the guy telling you the story, about the guy telling you the story.
And then there's a story about a mother's letters to him and
Yeah.
his letters back.
Reading
Well, we're almost
rainbow.
done this episode, but I guess I'll bring this up as our final thoughts. What the hell dictates the Bible? Because we're constantly finding like the Dead Sea Scrolls, all of these scrolls.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, people say that the Bible is, well, the Bible, right?
Right.
Yes.
Who wrote the Bible?
That's what
It
always
can't be God. It can't. That's not how that works.
Well, that's why-
Someone
Well,
has-
I disagree because if you read the Quran, that is supposedly the word of God.
Okay, but someone had to write it down.
Yes, this is true. Like Adam Smith,
Yeah.
the Mormons.
Yeah. Someone had to write it down. Someone had to take the word of God and then interpret it.
Exactly.
And then write it down.
Yes.
That's the confusing thing about the Bible, is that it's an interpretation that has no room for interpretation. That's a fucking paradox.
That is a paradox. The whole idea that in itself there are no. It's the idea that there are no moral absolutes. That is in itself an absolute.
Yeah.
Like, what if we found something like an old scroll from like Constantinople or some bullshit, where it's like, oh hey, this totally flips everything we have in the New Testament on its head. What if that happens?
It would just be chaos.
It would be utter chaos.
It would be
wouldn't it?
chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, the question is, if we're going to talk about interpretations of the Bible a little bit, no one follows the Bible to a T.
Yes.
No priest does it. No person does it. For one thing, you
Yes.
can't be a Christian.
Sure.
You know why? Not just because you're gay.
Oh, well.
Not
there.
just because of that.
Cat's out of the bag now.
Well, you're gay.
He's
I'm
been
sorry.
outed.
But also, what's this?
A beard.
You can't have that.
Yes. Also, you would be going to hell because you're wearing two different types of cloth.
Yep.
There's a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
Especially in the old, I see it a lot. It's mainly in the Old Testament is where I read a lot of that bullshit.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I just don't like reading the Old Testament.
Have you ever worn shorts?
Yep.
Can't do that either.
Damn it.
You cannot feel comfortable in the summer.
No. How dare you?
That is Christian law.
Well, I think one of the worst interpretations is in the original text. It says, "Man shall not lay with boy." That was them going against pedophilia. But they twisted it that way pedophilia could be okay, but gays could not.
In, I think, Leviticus. It's
in a much
book.
later edition. But they twisted it so that pedophilia was okay, but gays are not.
Also, how many versions of the Bible
Oh,
are
The King
yeah.
James Bible is not considered the definitive Bible.
Yeah.
It is just the most pretty
Yeah.
of the Bibles. It's just, and what I mean by that is best written. Like,
Yeah.
like it just
It's
flows
the
the best. Yeah.
it's the most accessible, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what is the first Bible?
I also find that a fascinating idea. The search for the first Bible.
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck did it come
Does
from?
that one, who wrote it? Two, I don't know if this has been answered because it's not like I
Well,
really looked into this. Where is it?
I wish to preface this, and we'll end it on this.
Yeah.
Not one person wrote the Bible.
Yeah.
It's a series of stories that were written by multiple different people
Yeah.
that have sort of been combined into one thing. At least that's the general consensus
Yeah.
Yes.
on what the Bible is. But who wrote those original stories?
Yeah.
That's what fascinates me.
Yes.
And we really don't know. I always love the unknown. I find it fascinating, also kind of terrifying, but fascinating because it makes you ask questions and makes you think.
Fun to
the big
explore.
one. Yeah, fun to explore. Well, I think that was a fantastic first episode, everybody.
I agree.
However, it is now time for me to choose the winner. And while I did give you an extra 1,000 points, unfortunately, Antonio is still ahead by 1,000. So Antonio is the first winner of What Are We Talking About? And so that means on the next episode, Antonio gets to be the host. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed. All of our social media is, of course, in the description below, like it is as always. I'm not going to hawk really anything out unless you guys have stuff that you want to hawk.
I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, of course.
It's called Game Controller Network. You can follow that if you like video games. We do not talk about God there. I only talk about how much I hate video games.
Sonic.
I have a YouTube, but it's mostly for Disney content, so it's very different from this. But if you want to give it a look, I'd appreciate it. Called Magically Jenny.
All the links are going to be in the description below. Anyways, see you guys in the next video. Sayonara.